May I have, for the record, your true name?
My name is Ron Carnegie.
Ron Carnegie. Thank you, Mr. Carnegie.
I wish I could remember this one too, because now you've thrown it. I was thinking it was Johnson, but you're saying that makes me doubt that it's Johnson now, because I think you're right that Johnson's the one who only as an entered apprentice. Johnson's also probably too recent for the story, because this would have been when we're still relying on train travel. Gosh, I wish I could remember which one this is. One of the presidents, he's president at the time, he's traveling on a train, and the porter on the train, he finds out that porter is after he gets off, the porter at the next station, he's going to his lodge and he's going to be made an entered apprentice. He's going to get his first degree in masonry. And so I think it may have been the third degree, but I think it's the first. So he's going into masonry. The importance isn't the degree he's getting. The importance is when his blindfold is removed, the president is there. That president changed his itinerary to attend this brother's, he doesn't even know his ritual work, which I just think is great. I don't think a president can even do that today, because they're not actually in control of their own schedules. Most powerful man in the country, he's not in charge of his own schedule. That's the chief of staff.
Oh, today's the anniversary of the Treaty of Paris.
About time.
What?
Overdone. It's overdue. It's about time.
No. Well,
I'm making a joke on how long it took to get that treaty. War was mostly over in 81. We're in a cessation of fire just a few months after that, and it takes until 83 for the final treaty to get here.
What do you most?
We violated our treaty with France because of that.
What do you most admire about Washington, based on your study of him?
I think one of the most remarkable things about Washington is how closely he adheres to his reputation. That's an amazing thing. And that could sound like I mean more than I do. I mean, there is still a lot of myth and legend added to him. But he does really live up to a lot of his reputation, and that's not something that most of us can do. He really is just an amazing, remarkable man. I agree with what Flexner says about him, that he was indispensable in winning the war, and seeing our Constitution ratified and then making it through the first 8 years. I guess the thing I probably least admire, his management style is horrible. The one aspect of it, which I think I can justify, is he's a workaholic and a bit of a perfectionist and a micromanager. And that's part of why he's a really bad employer. Imagine a micromanaging workaholic. And he doesn't view himself as exceptional, which means he's expecting you to be on his same level as a workaholic, and his micromanaging means he knows if you are. So he loses a lot of employees over time, and by employees I'm including his members of the cabinet. But the other aspect of that is when something negative is brought to his attention, a charge, I should say, a challenge of a charge. The way he often deals with that is he confronts with people with it. He'll pull them aside, maybe just him and them, maybe some other members of the cabinet or something. By that point, he'll confront them with the condemning document in a pretty condemning fashion, and then say, well, what do you have to say for yourself? And he loses a friend of his attorney general, for a brief time, a secretary of the state, and the son of a good friend of his, loses him from the cabinet because of that practice. Because the way Edmund Randolph dealt with being accused of this violation is to get very angry, very insulted, and to resign immediately, and then write a brochure in which he attacks the presidency, the president himself. What Washington was looking for was a suitable defense. But I could see how you will often get the reaction he got from Edmund Randolph with the way he presents it. But there are other cases where the guy makes a defense and then Washington's demeanor completely changes and he says, okay, fine, everything's fine. But he comes on so hard-nosed when he's doing it that you may not get to that point. And that leads to his real vice, in my opinion. And it's also a sadness of his life, is that when Washington feels personally betrayed, he'll write that person off. Washington has an increasing number of what he calls former friends. Some of those people deserve to be on that list, some do not. And I don't think Edmund Randolph, for instance. Edmund Randolph was foolish. He wasn't really guilty of what they were accusing him of. He just was in out of over his head and made a mistake. But usually if you're put on that former friends list, you're not getting off. And the reason I say usual is I know one exception, only one man who ends up on it. I was surprised when I learned he was on it. And then I was more surprised when I realized later that he got off of it. But that's General Knox.
Yeah.
Was there any truth to the matter that possibly Hamilton could have
Clearly
been,
feeding time.
Hamilton could have been a relative of Washington?
You mean a direct relative?
Yes,
I've never even heard that claim.
yes.
It seems very unlikely because he's not even from Virginia.
No, he was born in was Hamilton
Caribbean.
born in
Caribbean.
But I mean,
Bermuda.
it depends
Thank
on
you,
who
General.
they're trying to relate him